Welcome to the contractually obligated Zelda cartoon video. Really, I'm only making this so that I can complete my YouTube bucket list of having covered every piece of Zelda media ever. I don't have much to say about it, and it's the one part of the series that occupies my headspace the least. So let's get into it. The context surrounding the show's creation is important, as it highlights arguably the biggest aspect of how the show was written. For you see, The Legend of Zelda never actually got a cartoon series. Yeah, whenever it's brought up, you might be surprised to learn that it's actually a part of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show as another segment. It's kinda like Garfield and Friends. You've got the Garfield stuff, and then the weird farm stuff that was clearly inferior. Did anyone else watch that on Netflix back in the day, or is it just me and my siblings? Feels like a weird fever dream. Anyway, the series was kind of a companion piece to Mario, and though it was apparently successful enough with children back in the day, even prompting them to write letters asking it to not be cancelled, it ultimately was cancelled alongside Mario. Since the series isn't really associated with the Super Show outside of the whole remember the Nintendo cartoons from the 80s, it means that there's an inherent disconnect in how one consumes the series today, and you lose out on a core piece of its identity. See, my main issue with the series had always been that it's too tonally similar to the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Ganon is far too close to Bowser with none of the charm that King Koopa has. If it were its own thing, that would be weird. But now it suddenly clicks that it's supposed to be like that. Instead of something radically different, we have two segments that are meant to complement each other. It's a lot easier to understand what the writers were doing when you realize this, and it's weird that it isn't brought up more often in discussions. The writers were given free reign to do just about whatever they wanted, which did lead to some really weird stuff like Discount Tinkerbell and the Talking Triforces, but to be honest, with how little oversight they had, I think it's kinda cool that they didn't completely betray the series, even back in those formative years. Strangely enough, outside of the characterization, I say that it actually slots in quite decently with those first two games. The animation really does capture that particular art style you'd find in the game manuals. It's not like it's leaping off the manual pages, but it does emulate the look decently. I also think that for what we have to work with, the music works well enough. The instruments used fit nicely, and it has a nice blend of the vibes from the two games and your more standard cartoon sound. The action scenes work for what they are, rudimentary, but it gets the job done. I like the Tears of the Kingdom reference. Can't believe they had the foresight to include that 30 years prior. But yeah, let's get back to that characterization. I will die on the hill that the Super Mario Bros. Super Show is really charming and corny, and I like it quite a bit. There's just something about it that resonates deep in my soul. As a 6-year-old, seeing Luigi and Mario in real life was really novel, and I'll always cherish that. I think that a big part of the reason that the Super Show is something I can look back on fondly is that the characters are fun to follow. This interpretation of Mario and Luigi are interesting to say the least, but they have that spark of the characters I know and love. Almost as if they were pre-Flanderized before Mario's character was fully established in the 90s to early 2000s. Regardless, they have the soul of Mario. The same absolutely cannot be said for Zelda. Everyone knows Link, he's your typical obnoxious teenager who pines after the pretty lady, the classic and celibate. He has a catchphrase and everything. Something, this is why Link shouldn't speak or whatever. I don't have much to add here. He's annoying, and I wish that there was more of a focus on his heroic side rather than his whiny side. I'm not going to compare him to the mainline games, as the games that started fleshing Link out as more than a vessel for the player didn't release until much later. Instead, I'll compare it to a game that actually has a similar vibe to the cartoon. The games released for the Philips CDI. And for as strange as it may be to say, I actually think that the CDI games characterism perfectly in this one ultra niche specific case. He's still got that slight pining edge to him, but there he actually feels like a hero and is unironically a version of the character that I can actually kind of root for. He's more airheaded than anything else, which is close enough to the silly goofball he is in the games, so I'll allow it. Keep in mind, this is exclusive to a late 80s cartoon funhouse version of Zelda, and in no way would I ever say this in any other context. But yeah, if the cartoon Link was characterized like that, I think it would be way more fun to sit through and revisit. Zelda is kind of the same, she isn't the most fun princess to follow. And with how she is as important a character as Link, she sure is one note. She's pretty much your typical headstrong female lead that you'd see in any cartoon in that time period. Compared to the Brooklyn Italian plumbers, these two are nowhere near as fun to watch. She doesn't feel that developed or distinct, especially compared to Link. A lot of the time, her character kind of boils down to being irritated with Link, which doesn't make for the most compelling dynamic in the world. The CDI games gave her a bit more of a sassy side, which isn't that much better than here, but she definitely sticks out in my mind more than compared to here. Ganon is the only one of these three who is better here than in the CDI games. There he was utterly pathetic, here he's at least a discount Bowser. In those games he's beaten by a heckin' book, and here he does stuff, so that's pretty cool. He's a bit too goofy to really embody the core aspects of the original character, but honestly I've never really cared for Ganon. Ganondorf is one of my favorite villains, but the same isn't true for Ganon, so him being this dumb brute who's more comedically focused doesn't personally offend me like Link does. He wants to use Link's blood to resurrect himself in Zelda 2, and in the cartoon he sends people to the evil jar. It's a concept so stupid that I just can't get enough of it. Yeah, that about covers it. Like I said, I don't have much to say about it, and I just want to get my least passionate Zelda project out of the way first. Next up, I'm currently working on a 100% genuine analysis of the 3 CDI games, so consider subscribing for that. Like the video perhaps? I don't know. I don't like adding these things to the end of videos, but we'll see if it helps. Bye-bye now.